The trap there is that you're your own boss. And so of course, at the beginning, you're going to be the best boss imaginable, right? And you're just going to be really easy on yourself, kind of a pushover. And so for me, especially with these bigger projects, what I learned was, if you really want to get things done, do big things, the time doesn't just show up. You have to steal it from comfort.
With everything that we talk about, there's always balance. We tend to swing from one side to the other. It's, we get lazy and then we go, oh crap, we're lazy. Now let's get productive. And then we swing back to the overproductive side. Then we overwork and we go, now I'm exhausted. Now we swing back to the other side. Balance is also another one of those real common topics, especially when it comes to like work-life balance. Like what's your history up to this point?
Let's say 3 phases in my life so far. I would say the first phase was very much in the US, doing everything according to plan, right? Got my degree, corporate world, and got forced into that. Next 5 or 6 years was me trying to figure out what I should do, as far as work, as far as a profession, and who I was really, like what I wanted my lifestyle to be. The second phase of my life, which was going to Brazil, living abroad, becoming a teacher, becoming a writer, learning a language. So really like pursuing a lot of my dreams, like kind of having the courage to kind of pursue all those dreams and kind of quit the US and my previous life in a way. And after about 3-4 years of that, it led me to the third phase of my life, which is the one that I'm in now. I now have my own business. I'm more of a nomad, permanently working remote. I have a private client business. I'm doing something that I love, that I feel passionate about, that I feel good about, and continuing to kind of push myself outside of my comfort zone and embrace learning and growth.
Other people I've interviewed, that seems to be a real recurring theme of trying to find their passion or how they define success. And so often they just went through that standard path of, high school to college. And then there you get this job and they realize it's not what they want or what they expected at all.
I wonder if we just kind of get pushed into it a bit much, right? Like it's like you're supposed to keep up with the Joneses and, not fall behind. And we're always looking to, so many people are like finishing school early and getting college credits and taking AP courses and stuff like this. Just like this big hurry to become an adult and just to fit in with everyone else. Once I started traveling, which was still in that kind of first phase of exploration, I would meet these Australians and some South Africans, and we would talk. You'd meet at a hostel, and then they'd ask me how long I'd been traveling, and I'd say, I've been traveling for about a month. It's amazing.
And to you at that point, it was like a big deal. Like you're like, yeah, a month.
Yeah, and then I'm like, so what about you? It's like, about 3.5 years. That's when I started to learn that, there's other places, other people, that do things differently and kind of take their time to, figure out their place, in the world and what, maybe what their strengths are, what they enjoy, where they can contribute. So then I started thinking that way too. And, it was a long process. It took me a long time to get to that point.
Now you run your own business. I feel like a lot of people out there that go into running their own business or these entrepreneurs, they get comfortable with the idea of not having the structure because they're the ones that identify the structure. They have to build the structure, or they're paving the way where there's not a lot to follow. We're taught that there's a certain process of things. You go to school, you do this, you do that, but it takes some experience to understand that that's not universal. Like those aren't universal truths. You have your own way of approaching life and how you want to live, and you can essentially craft your own life.
In certain cultures, it takes courage, right? It takes kind of a lot of strength and really a lot of self-awareness to do that. It was like a series of small steps. But then once I did, the funny thing with that, right, with kind of walking away from this structure, right, this kind of life that everyone's designed for you, is once you're your own boss, once you have your own business, you realize that there's a lot that structure provides. It helps you be more productive, right? It does put you in environments where there's pressure for you to get things done. That outside pressure from coworkers and bosses, that this actually it helps you perform. And so then I had to learn that on my own, kind of to be my own boss and to habit design, to understand the power of routine, the power of boundaries, the power of environment. Because when I was first doing it, it really wasn't productive. Personal hours, work hours, they all kind of just blended in, and it was definitely like a learning moment for me.
When you say be your own boss, you talk about routine and environment. What do you think goes into being your own boss? Like what are the skills or experiences or the systems that help to facilitate being a good boss to yourself?
Learning to set boundaries as far as, when you're going to work, where you're going to work, eliminating, any distractions, and just creating an environment that's conducive to work, right? Instead of an environment that is exactly the same as where you eat or where you watch television. I think also understanding that once you're your own boss, like you have to do everything, right? You have to do all the things that your boss used to do. So, yes, I'm the teacher, I'm the coach, but I'm also the accountant, I'm also the assistant, I'm also the marketer. You kind of have to wear a lot of hats, making an effort to stay a learner, really to be to open to change and just, wake up every day and just say, I don't know everything, today I can learn something, I can be a better boss, and just keep that learner's mindset.
For me, I know a big part of being my own boss is the vision and breaking that vision down into goals, and then trying to break those goals down into tasks. Like, what am I supposed to do today or this week? Find that that's a constant battle of being realistic with time, being realistic with time frames, how realistically we can actually get that stuff done, especially when it's not like a daily task. Have you experienced anything along those lines when it comes to starting running your business?
I think for me, the way that I've dealt with that lately, and I'm still working on it, of course, still something I struggle with, is with habits, with what I've learned about habit building. When I became my own boss, when I finally was able to just do my own thing and choose my clients and choose how I solve my clients' problems. The trap there is that you're your own boss. And so of course, at the beginning, you're going to be the best boss imaginable, right? And you're just going to be really easy on yourself, kind of a pushover. And so for me, especially with these bigger projects, what I learned was, if you really want to get things done, do big things, that the time doesn't just show up, that you have to steal it from comfort. So I think for several years I was choosing comfort over meaningful work.
With everything that we talk about, there's always balance. We tend to swing from one side to the other. It's we get lazy and then we go, oh crap, we're lazy, now let's get productive, and then we swing back to the overproductive side, then we overwork, and then go, now I'm exhausted, now we swing back to the other side. Balance is also another one of those real common topics, especially when it comes to work-life balance.
My take on work-life balance is that there's never really a perfect balance. It's kind of just like a sliding scale. Depending on what you're doing, you need to be able to just kind of slide that, to just move it one direction or another. Now, maybe is a time to focus more on the life, focus more on your health, focus more on thoughts in your mind, and not, put any additional stress on yourself. I
think that awareness also ties very nicely into the subject that we're talking about with being your own boss, because to be your own boss, you have to be aware of how you're behaving. It's almost like that subconscious or that third party looking over your shoulder, but it's you. You have to be that person. So it does take another level of awareness that I think comes with experience and skill, because it's one of those traits can't really be taught and is learned through experience or maybe through a mentor or program, which is definitely not part of our standard education system. So a lot of times it's up to us to learn awareness to be able to then use this in all aspects of life, whether it's being your own boss or even working at a company.
I think reflection too. I think a big mistake that we sometimes make is we just think that experience will teach us everything. You're always just kind of in that cycle, right? You're just in this vicious cycle of just getting things done. And if you don't zoom out every now and then to reflect on, what went right, what could have gone better, if you turn that into a practice, into a habit, then you'll find that you're a lot more self-aware.
Do you have a system in place, or is it a bit more casual where you go, oh, I haven't been reflecting, now I should? So how do you actually apply that?
I journal. Sometimes I'll kind of shuffle onto different types of journals, but for the most part, my main journal is just kind of a plain notebook. I'll start off the day with just some standard gratitude and kind of, big things I want to get done that day, maybe usually keep it to 3. And then at the end of the day, I'll just make note of any big wins from that day, 1 or 2 things that could have gone better. Maybe once every couple of weeks, I'll go ahead and review all of those days and then see if there's maybe a bigger trend or maybe something that's popping up as far as the what can improve. Maybe there's something that's popping up often that I'm not addressing.
Yeah, what I like about that is it creates some evidence or something to go back to that's a bit more objective, that you can then reflect on what did you actually do. Kind of like a food tracker or tracking your workouts. You can now see a trend or process when you actually document it down. And it sounds like a lot of times with things like experience, they're a little subjective. It's qualitative. It's hard to actually like comprehend. But if you actually just start putting it into words, you build a process, you get used to it, and then it can actually show you how or why you make certain decisions, why you're doing this. You might realize that you spend a lot of your day on Netflix, and that's why you're not getting stuff done. My big takeaway from the journals is you have to have a system in place or an understanding as to like how that journal fits in your life. It works very well. So I just use a task manager, identify the big goals for the week or the month, and then just break it down to the do versus do system. Like it gets done now, and when is the due date, so that I can break it out nicely. And then my journaling is just strictly based on the reflection of my decisions.
But then, of course, you need to have the discipline too, right? Discipline to actually stick to it.
If you actually had a boss above you and he assigns you some tasks, and you looked at it and you were like, hey, there's no way I'm getting this done. Or you get through the week and you're supposed to get these tasks done in a week, and you get to the end of the week and you're like, oh, I did not get this stuff done. Think about like how your boss would react. Would you want your boss to come over and ream you out because you didn't get that work done? Or would you prefer to be like, hey, this was not realistic? And I think that's where it comes down a lot too, is we shouldn't get down and beat ourselves up, but actually treat ourselves like the boss that we want to have, in that sense, where you do your journaling and you reflect on how long certain stuff took, and you actually go, hey, that wasn't realistic. No need to get down on ourselves. That means next time either plan more time or figure out a different system. Like maybe it does require a team, or maybe I need to outsource this, specific parts of it. What do you think are some impactful things that people should take away or go do today, just from your experience or from this conversation?
I think one is, self-awareness is a skill, right? I think it's like a muscle. You can definitely strengthen it, and you can do that through more reflection, through, becoming more mindful of why you do the things that you do, what your habits are, really explore why you're succeeding in certain things and why you're not in others. Learning about yourself, like that's curriculum that just, it never ends. If you make a habit of doing that, it will help you be a better boss. It will help you work from home better. It will help you even enact change better, right? In others, if you understand, how you're trying to do that, what your stories are, what your habits are.
Yeah, I think another really big thing from always be learning is there's a difference of using the knowledge you have and your experience and your wisdom to also be aware that you don't know everything, right? So like, I feel like so many times when we think that we've reached a certain plateau or that we've now figured it out, that's when we get blindsided or we see some of our bigger failures because we stopped learning, because we feel that we've now become an expert on this subject. I use the term very broadly when I say expert, because we can be experienced and be very good at it, more so than your average person on any one particular subject, but that doesn't mean you know everything on that subject. Once we feel like, hey, I'm at a certain level where I don't need to be learning anymore, or this input is not necessary, that's where we really tend to fault.